Hey friend, in this video, I'm teaching you how to paint basic watercolor flowers by covering the basic strokes you'll use for each individual petal. So I'm going through teardrop shape, the fluffy texture that you can use in hydrangea or in dogwood or cherry blossoms and berries. And then I'm covering how to achieve an almond shaped petal and a longer teardrop. So there's 4 different styles and shapes that I use for all of my petals, for all of my loose style floral watercolor pieces. So if you're ready to learn those things and practice them, develop that muscle memory, then let's dive in. Now we're going to be moving into how to paint basic petal shapes. So we're moving from sketching to painting. Now in all of the stuff that I talked about in these previous lessons, like sketching basic flowers from basic shapes and then leaves, is going to be foundational knowledge for painting flowers and leaves and whatnot. But we're gonna break down some simple flowers first into curves and shapes because again, that's what I love to do. All right, so just for this demo, I'm gonna be using my size 6 brush. If you've been following this channel for any number of weeks, then you know that I love the Princeton Heritage 4050 synthetic sable hair brushes. I love size 6, size 16, size 2. Those are my go-tos. Make sure you check out the video where I talk about all my supplies if you're curious, and we have them linked below, all the links to the supplies that I'm using. So to illustrate this, loose style watercolor flowers, I break down petal shapes into roughly 4 different shapes. So we're gonna start with one being the fluffy stuff. That's the technical term, you guys, the fluffy stuff. This could be the centers of peonies, like really fluffy peonies like this, or bigger fluff in the center of peonies. This could be berries, the fluffy berries. Where's some fluffy berries? We've got some fluffy berries here. Fluffy stuff. So for fluffy stuff, this is our first petal shape of 4, fluffy stuff. We are using the belly or the body of the brush. So again, I'm using a size 6 brush and I am angling it perpendicular to the direction that I will be fluffing. So I'm using the width or belly of the brush to create the berry shape, the petal shape, whatever it is. So I'm literally just bringing this up and back down, up and back down. So if I'm pointing this way, I'm gonna be perpendicular to that direction. So again, if this is like a peony, that would be the center, and then I would have teardrop shaped petals around it. But let's keep this simple for this demo because I'm gonna be doing a peony in a second. Let's say these are berries. Let's do this again, fluff it up and kind of create like a V shape with these fluffers, making sure they're pointing, coming to a point where the stem would be. And I'm just using a mixture of Scarlet Lake, Opera Rose, and Cadmium Orange for these. And again, just using the side of my brush to fluff around. And to just bring this forward a little bit, I'm going to add a stem so you can really see what's going on here. So we've got, this is pointing this direction, so we're gonna pull that out here. Using sap green and lemon yellow deep for those stems and leaves. So fluffy stuff. This is great filler flower for if you're doing a full composition of flowers. It's good filler flower, it's good berries, just kind of filling in that white space between your bigger, fuller flowers like roses or peonies, whatever it is. Another way you can use fluffy stuff is for hydrangea, for cherry blossoms. So I'm gonna mix up a really light peachy pink with Opera Rose, lemon yellow deep, lots of water, and maybe a touch of cadmium orange. we're gonna fluff it up. So again, the center of my flower is gonna be roughly around here. I'm kind of eyeballing that. And I'm just going to use the side of the brush and fluff out. Maybe come down 2 to 3 times like so to form a petal shape. And then I'll come over here for some more fluff. Maybe this is like there's a little highlight there on the side of that petal. I'm gonna add a little bit more pink for these petals to show some variety. See how I'm just kind of doing this up and down motion. Nothing too complicated. Fluff it up. And then maybe we've got a cluster of cherry blossoms here. Fluff, fluff. Always making sure my petals are pointing straight back to wherever the center of the flower would be. And one up here. Fluff. The more water you have on your brush, the lighter your color will be. So if you want these really soft petals, then just make sure you have a lot of water in your mixture, but always dab your excess water off on your paper towel before going to your paper so you don't create puddles, which will create hard lines and wonkiness. If you haven't checked it out yet, check out the Complete Beginner's Guide to Watercolor. So this is the Complete Beginner's Guide to Watercolor Flowers, but that one will talk a lot more about the basics of watercolor, like wet and wet technique versus wet and dry, how to control your water. We also have a video on controlling your water, tips for controlling your water. So we've got our little cluster of cherry blossoms or dogwood. If you're to do like a ball of these, it would be a hydrangea. We also have a hydrangea video. Check it out. And then you can add your center for your flower. I'm just gonna do 3 little dots of burnt umber mixed with Mars Black for the center of these cutie guys, these cutie fluffies. Again, you get a lot of technical terms when you watch this channel. I'm going to use the tip of my brush, so I've got more of a slanted hold on my brush instead of flat, so that I can use the point of my round tip brush. And I'm just going to paint in 3-ish dots. If they touch the wet petal, I don't mind one bit because it's cute. I love the wet and wet look. And make sure your dots aren't all uniform and all the same size. So we've got some bigger ones, a smaller one. Mix it up. There you go. So there is one basic stroke or shape for how to paint flowers. The next one is going to be the teardrop petal. So teardrop petals, you're gonna use teardrop petals for peonies quite a lot. So here is a peony with a good teardrop shape. You know, we come for a rounded top and it tapers off like a little raindrop or teardrop. Same with this petal, same with this petal. This is just a longer, skinnier one. This is a longer, fatter one. Short, fat one, teardrop shape right here. So this basic petal, the teardrop shape, is, I use this a lot for my peonies. I also use it for like cone flowers or black-eyed Susans. They're just longer and skinnier. And we're gonna do a longer teardrop shape for our last exercise in this. You can also use the teardrop shape for little bulbs or buds of flowers. So like these little tulips are teardrop shapes. So let's do some of those to practice. Again, using my size 6 brush. grab whatever color is calling your name. You could do purple, you could do blue. I'm gonna do pink. Opera rose is what I'm soaking up here, and I'm just gonna do a touch of cadmium orange. Basically, we can break down this teardrop shape into two parts. So I'm gonna do it real quick without me talking, and then I'm gonna talk you through it. So I'm gonna point my brush to the base of the teardrop. That. So what you're doing is you're pointing towards, so instead of like the fluff where we're on the side and we're perpendicular to the direction the petal is pointing, we're gonna be in line with the direction the petal is pointing. So I am going to be pointing the tip of my brush towards the base of the teardrop and have a slanted hold, so about 40 degrees away from the paper with my brush handle. I'm going to point, press, curve in. And as I'm curving in, I'm kind of lifting off too, so it doesn't have this like rough edge at the top. And then I'm gonna come up just a little bit higher, so not totally equal at the base. I'm gonna come up a little bit higher and leave a gap of white space. You can stop there if you want to, or if you're doing a really fat petal, then just kind of go on the side of that and keep, I mean, you can do this for days, depending on how fat you want that petal. So we're just kind of creating a fan shape. So depending on the size of the petal that you want, you're gonna stop after 2 or you're gonna keep going. So again, for the front of like a peony, let's say, we've got our first big petal in the front here. And then maybe we've got a teardrop where we only see the side and it starts to go behind this petal. So we're lifting it behind and only coming down a little bit. And you can use wet and wet technique to add in some more color. And then same thing over here. We've got a teardrop lifting up and around this front petal. And then we're gonna use some of that fluffy stuff to fill in the tops of these petals, like so. And then you can do an upside down teardrop for a petal that's falling away. Like that. Okay, let's do that again. So for a peony, we've got do a teardrop. See how that is up a little bit higher. Maybe for my next petal, I grab a little bit of orange so that it looks like a separate petal. Curve in. Maybe a little fatter. And you can stop right here, add a stem and a leaf for a heart-shaped flower, maybe like a bud or a tulip, and call it a day. But for a peony, we're gonna make this come out and above here. For a basic loose style fluffy peony. And then we're just fluffing. So that white space is really crucial because it shows the separate petals. And you also want to make sure that all of your petals are pointing back to that leaf. So again, if you didn't watch the beginning part of this video where I covered how to sketch a basic flower, go back and watch that, because that is going to inform how you place your petals when you're painting. You're making sure they're always pointing back to that spot where the stem is connected to the bulb of the flower. So again, curving in, getting lighter for the petals that go around and in the back. There you have it for your peonies. So cute. Next up is going to be the almond shape. So this one is super duper simple, but a lot of people overthink it and then make it more complicated than it actually is. But to create an almond shaped with the round tip brush, all you have to do is place your brush down on the paper. So this could be used for lavender, rosemary if you have a greenish color and you're doing more like an herb or leaves. I'm gonna do cobalt blue, a little Prussian blue, and some ultramarine violet for my lavender color, and a lot of water. So I'm gonna dab off the excess water on my paper towel before I do this. So almond shaped flower or petal, whatever, all you're gonna do is have a slanted hold with your brush and point. If I'm painting lavender, we're gonna kind of eyeball where the stem is and just press down on the paper. Maybe drag up a little bit. Press and drag. Press and drag. So literally just placing, and wherever the petal is connecting to the stem, I'm pointing my brush, the tip of my brush towards. So we get that point at the base of the almond shape. Just kind of fluffing around. So we get to the top and we've got some lavender, folks. This again makes some, for bouquets, makes some great filler flower. Adds shape and length to your bouquets or to your floral pieces. Great to have. And you can do that not just with lavender, you can do it for delphinium if you want to. Delphinium's a good one. Let's fluff it out down here a little bit more. Bloop, bloop. Okay, next petal shape to practice is the long teardrop shape. So we did teardrop up here for the peonies, the bigger petal flowers. And then for our cone-shaped flowers, or anything that kind of looks like a ballet skirt, like a black-eyed Susan or echinacea flower, we're gonna do the same stroke, but for longer. So I'm gonna do a black-eyed Susan, and they kind of have like their petals, instead of coming up for a bowl shape, they just kind of are like an umbrella. So I'm gonna eyeball where the bulb of the flower is gonna be right here, and I'm just going to point and drag for pressure and curve in, just like we did here. And then come up a little bit, again, just like we did for the shorter teardrop, and curve in like that. So that's one side of my umbrella or my ballet skirt. The other side, we're gonna go directly across from the left side. So we're not starting down here or up here, we're coming directly across. Press and drag, curve in, and like that. And then we'll do these other petals the same way, longer teardrops. like so. And then we've got a dark bulb in the center. Burnt umber and Mars black is what I'm using. And we're just gonna blah 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 blah. Whoops, where'd that come from? Don't you love that, painters? Booyah. Let's cover that up. What happened here? Blah, blah. There's your stem. Boop. So longer teardrop petals. Good for daisies, good for echinacea flower, good for black-eyed Susan, like I said. But you're just point, press, curve in. Come up a little bit higher, curve in. This is just the sides of these. So if this is your first time painting flowers like this, please keep in mind, go back to the sketching lesson where I show you how to sketch from basic shapes. But for these cone-shaped flowers, or ballet skirt as I like to call them, you're always envisioning in mind where the center of the flower is. So you could draw a line down the center of the bulb, and that would connect to the stem. And from there, this is just, again, if I were to sketch it, a ballet skirt. So I've got my C curves on the sides with a C curve on the bottom. So all of my petals are pointing back to the center of the flower and forming to create a little ballet skirt. And for your peonies, you've got a V shape or this bowl shape. So I started with a small oval and then a big oval to sketch that. Same thing when you're painting it. You are kind of envisioning how that bowl is created. So the opening of the bowl is at the top here. That's why it's crucial to leave some white space so it looks like a separate row of flower or petals and doesn't just look like it bleeds into the same petal. So make sure you're keeping that in mind and practicing your sketching as well as practicing painting the actual flower. So doing this over and over again, creating and filling up sheets of these basic shapes for petals, doing your berry fluffy stuff in different shapes and colors and directions. You can do it in these, I did it in this dark blue down here with Prussian blue and Mars black, and smaller than I did up here. So you've got some like really nice agapanthus?
No idea on that one.
I just brain melted. Agapanthus stuff, I think is what it's called. Dogwood or hydrangea or cherry blossoms. And this is another fluffy stuff that's bigger. I don't know, we could call that a tulip. We could call it a peony. We could call it many things. Loose style flowers. So keep it loose. Focus on practicing those 4 shapes over and over and over again, and you will develop that muscle memory and get more comfortable every single time, and you'll be able to envision the shape of the flower as you're painting, so you'll be more confident as you're painting. Thank you so much for watching. This was just one part of the full-length tutorial that we put together called The Complete Beginner's Guide to Watercolor Flowers, where I cover sketching flowers, sketching leaves from basic shapes and curves, painting basic flowers and their basic strokes for petals, painting basic leaves from compound strokes, pressure and release, painting an anemone star-shaped flower, painting delphinium, painting an iris flower with watercolor, color mixing using reference photos and how to achieve certain colors with color mixing, and also a full floral composition for a floral bouquet in watercolor. So make sure you check out that full length tutorial. If you liked this video, please, please, please make sure you like and subscribe to our channel, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and comment below with what your favorite takeaway was from this video. And I hope to see you in the next one.